Melly's text messages were presented in court the other day, and it was not a pleasant sight for the jury. The new details reveal to us all that Melly believes he's an evil monster and that his mom is the B word. The evidence was almost denied by the judge, but him letting this one go through really could be a game changer. Here's what happened in the YNW Melly trial that everybody's talking about. Right before the week-long break, some insane stuff happened in the YNW Melly trial that got everyone buzzing. It's all about this investigator who dropped a bombshell and basically caught Melly in a whole lot of trouble. Here's what went down. You've heard this story a dozen times already, but it's the most important element to this trial. According to the state, Melly and Portland allegedly planned a drive-by shooting to hide the fact that they murdered their friends Juvie and Sack Chaser. But during the trial, this detective showed up and reenacted the entire scene for the jury, and he concluded that the shots that killed them actually came from inside the car, not from the outside. The detective's findings were quite explicit regarding Juvie's fate. Apparently, he was shot in the head at close range from the left side while facing forward. They even delved into the unpleasant specifics about the entrance wound and bullet trajectories. And I gotta say, it's pretty damn compelling. To make matters even more incriminating, the jury had already viewed surveillance footage that clearly showed Melly chilling in the back left seat of the Jeep, while Juvie was in the front seat and Sack Chaser in the back right seat. Furthermore, the medical examiners confirmed that both victims sustained gunshot wounds to the head from the left side. But wait a minute, it's not all bad news for Melly just yet. He managed to score a few small victories along the way. Turns out that the prosecution made a major blunder by failing to disclose a second forensics report, which is a serious violation. As a result, that crucial piece of evidence was excluded from the trial, kind of like a small triumph for Melly amidst the chaos. However, let's not forget the gravity of the situation. If he's found guilty, Melly's facing a lifetime behind bars without the possibility of parole, or perhaps even the death penalty. He is undeniably in an extremely precarious position. The YNW Melly murder case has resumed with full force after a week-long break, and it seems like we're in for another long month of this ongoing spectacle. The intriguing revelations just keep on pouring in. Now, there's this individual named Trevon Glass, who was involved in producing beats for YNW Sack Chaser. Trevon Glass did not hold back and revealed the true events that unfolded at the studio on that fateful night. And here's the kicker. Glass emphasized that he was sober during the hearing, even though he somewhat wished he wasn't.
Did you smoke before you came here today?
I did not.
I have nothing. Thank you.
I should have.
So this guy spills the beans and reveals that they had a whopping 12-hour recording session scheduled at a studio. But let's face it, they couldn't handle the full 12. Fatigue started setting in. They began feeling drowsy, as we all know how that goes. And here's the interesting part, they actually left the studio really late at night. Things were getting pretty wild. All the sauce that Melly's in right now, it's all because of what happened right after that recording session in Fort Lauderdale back in 2018. These guys were close, part of Melly's crew, the YNW gang. It's quite the roller coaster. Glass, the producer, didn't hold back and disclosed what he witnessed on the surveillance tapes at the studio. He saw Melly and another rapper, Fredo Bang, getting into a Jeep Compass and a red Mitsubishi. Prosecutors were really keen on getting Fredo to testify, but Fredo already made it very crystal clear that some time ago he had zero intention of showing up and revealing any information in court. Why? Because he can always plead the fifth if they bring him in and ask him something that incriminates him. Although, if he gets subpoenaed, we might still see him in the courtroom. Regardless, to get back to the present point at hand, after leaving the studio, Glass and his crew went to Melly's place and eventually ended up at Fredo's residence to mourn the loss of their friends. This is where things take an intriguing turn. Glass noticed that Melly had changed his clothes since the recording session earlier that night. The prosecutors wanted to confirm that Melly changed his clothes, so she asked,
"Was Melly wearing the same clothes or different clothes than when you saw him at the studio?"
It was a new day. Nah, he wasn't.
Nah, he wasn't. You guys
He wasn't wearing the same clothes.
Okay. Do you recall what he was wearing?
Just had on some shorts.
But when they questioned him about the events that took place at Fredo's place, Glass suddenly became uncooperative, stating that he was too overwhelmed by grief to provide any details. Alright, now let's carefully analyze this testimony, shall we? It's incredibly suspicious. I mean, why on earth would both defendants change their clothes and spend a solid 40 minutes cruising around instead of immediately rushing to the hospital to check on their injured buddies if they had no involvement in this crime? That's not the behavior one would expect from innocent individuals, let me assure you. It's as if they're deliberately trying to conceal something, hiding some crucial information. There's definitely something fishy happening here, and it's causing significant doubts and skepticism. Glass, speaking about Melly changing clothes, wasn't the only interesting thing that took place during the trial these last few days. We've also had a lot of evidence come in from what the prosecutor is still trying to prove to be Melly's phone. During the trial, a significant discussion revolved around the positioning of the phones in relation to the discovered bullet casings. To shed light on this matter, they called in Mark Moretti, a detective from Miramar who had been deeply involved in this case. The prosecution is still fervently attempted to establish a connection between Melly, the phone, and the car where the alleged crime took place. Guess what? This time they have some additional incriminating evidence against Melly. They are going to all out to achieve the most precise estimation possible regarding the location. However, their method relies on phone tower records, which we know won't give an extremely precise position/location. Therefore, the defense might raise doubts about the accuracy of that info, as they've done previously. But there's more. One of the journalists in the case with inside information and first-hand knowledge about the case keeps sharing additional details on Twitter. Firstly, he tweeted, "Detective Moretti said that YNW Juvie's cell phone was found in the back floorboard of the right passenger rear." The second tweet said, "Detective Moretti said Sack Chaser's phone was 100 meters from where the shell casings were found. YNW Melly's phone was 400 meters from where the casings were found." Later in the detective testimony, there was a significant discussion about CDR records, which stands for Call Detailed Records. The expert explained the various columns and their significance in these records. This information was crucial because the prosecution aimed to demonstrate the relevance of this data to the case. Additionally, Fredo Bang was brought up in proceedings again due to his communication with Melly before and after the incidents involving Juvie and Sack. There seems to be a connection between Melly, Fredo Bang's house, and their phones. We know Melly visited Fredo's house on the morning of the murders, and this fact was confirmed by Sack's producer, Glass. "Miramar FL 33029, I'm on my way right now, blood." The prosecutor pulled out another card from her deck. She introduced Western Union and presented a receipt with Melly's phone number and name on it. This was an additional way to emphasize that the phone in question truly belonged to Melly and not someone else. Things then took a very somewhat confusing turn. The prosecutor and Detective Moretti delved into the various data points on the phone. However, let's be honest, if you're a member of the jury, it might be challenging to grasp the full context here. They mentioned all sorts of details that didn't appear directly connected to the main argument the prosecutor was trying to convey. But here's where it gets intriguing. They decided to introduce messages exchanged between Melly and Fredo Bang. These messages revolved around money and making plans for future tours. It's as if they were trying to shed light on their financial transactions and upcoming endeavors. It wasn't just Fredo's messages that played a role. There was an extensive discussion about messages and phone numbers exchanged between Melly and various individuals, including some prominent figures. The clear objective here was to establish connections and motives. In addition, we caught a glimpse of tension between Melly and his mom. They had their fair share of disagreements, and Melly didn't shy away from expressing his frustration. The situation escalated when Juvie's sister made threats towards Melly's mom, leading her to hire a bodyguard for protection. And let me tell you, there were numerous other messages that really made you pause and contemplate. Did Melly just actually commit such an unthinkable act? Take a look at this particular message, for example. It's what Borland says about what Melly did. It's like a bombshell that hits you right in the gut. He did one of the realest shit in my life. It appears that there's some significant animosity brewing among the rappers within the YNW crew, as the jurors discovered on Wednesday. Melly appeared to be quite upset because his fellow rappers were reaping the financial rewards and receiving recognition for his artistic contributions to their collective work. During Tuesday, 11th of July court session, they presented text messages that were purportedly exchanged between Melly and Sack Chaser, revealing a side of their relationship that the jurors hadn't previously seen. These messages served as the initial indication that Melly and his eventual victims did not have a harmonious relationship and were not on friendly terms. Even though the defense attorneys argued that the messages lacked proper authentication, Judge John Murphy allowed the jurors to hear Detective Mark Moretti's account on how he built the case, ultimately implicating Melly as the one responsible for the murders of YNW, Juvie, and Sack. Remember the opening statements when the defense lawyers emphasized that Melly had no motives to kill his friends? Now the jurors have the task to determine whether the text messages presented in court on Tuesday can be even considered a motive for the killings at all. In one message from August of 2018, Melly apparently expressed his frustration, saying, "Y'all acting like you're the bosses. "My flow ain't worth it if I don't get credit in payment." The detective explained that Melly was demanding recognition and payment for his creative contributions. Sack was responding by assuring him, "I'll always repay you for everything you've done for me, every idea and all that. We'll always be brothers." In another message, Melly inquired about the location of something referred to as Phi, which Moretti suggests might have been the code for a weapon. Williams, Sack Chaser, replied that it was in a shoebox in his closet. Now, it's important to note that this conversation does not prove that Melly had a gun in his possession, especially not at the time of the murders. As a matter of fact, the defense asked the judge to withdraw some of the evidence about Melly that came after the fact. Such was the case with Melly asking his mom to get him a Glock. The judge agreed to that objection, so that piece of evidence will not be used against Melly. However, he let a few little details slide that the defense also wanted out of the frame. Little after that objection to text messages came a new set of messages, and these were with his mother. Now, at one point in the conversation between Melly and his mother, Melly shockingly referred to his mother using a derogatory term. "Bitch, you gave me the cold shoulder because I couldn't find a blazer." To add to the gravity of the situation, he went on to express that he is evil, a monster who prefers to be alone, and told everyone to go you know where. These statements certainly do not work in Melly's favor, especially for those who may have still been supporting him. The jury is unlikely to forget this significant revelation. These messages even prompted the defense to call for a mistrial once again. However, the judge firmly rejected their request and was unwilling to dismiss this crucial piece of evidence. In response to the defense attorney's argument that the language used by Melly towards his mother could negatively impact the juror's perception, the judge simply stated, "Motion denied."
Unrelated conversations between Mr. Demons and his mother where he's calling her the B word and all sorts and manner of disrespect that is clearly off-putting to anyone. And under the pretext that they're trying to prove this phone belongs and is being used by Mr. Demons.
People are generally disturbed to see Melly talking this way to his mom and his friends. Some see his motive of being slowly built up here, and they don't shy away from sharing their thoughts on the internet. One message wrote, "Listening to the messages between these guys is like dogs fighting over scraps. I pity them all because they put material value over friendship. Even if the money's value is millions, it's still a petty issue. Truly sad outcome for the victims." Another person said that this is legit evidence and that cell phones can get you in deep trouble if you're not careful. People need to understand that your cell phone is the new DNA evidence. Every text, photo, call, your location, and movements will be used as evidence against you if you're accused of a crime. Keeping that cell phone is going to put Melly away in prison. He should have gotten rid of it with the gun. On the day when YNW Melly's two friends were tragically killed on October 26, 2018, it was actually observed that Melly was actively enjoying himself at a music video shoot. Detective Mark Moretti, the lead investigator, confirmed that a video was recorded and shared on Facebook on the exact same day when YNW Juvie and YNW Sack Chaser were fatally shot. The individual recording the video remarked, "Melly is still full of excitement, seemingly unaffected by the events that occurred earlier in the morning." Online comments expressing disbelief have been circulating online, as many find it difficult to comprehend how Melly was able to carry on with such enthusiasm despite the tragic circumstances that transpired. Seems real shady, beyond shady. I feel for the two families that lost their sons. The trial for Melly and his double murder case encountered a delay and won't resume until Monday. The judge informed the jurors on Wednesday that one of the defense attorneys fell ill during the lunch break and couldn't return to the courtroom. Judge John Murphy acknowledged the situation, apologizing to the jurors for the inconvenience and stating, "There's nothing we can do about it. When you're sick, right?" Apart from this case that Melly is finding every day, he is now facing some extra legal battles in the form of wrongful death suits. The family of the victims are now going after Melly, claiming millions of dollars in damages for their loved ones' deaths. Juvie's mom, Leandra Phillips, is leading the charge, fighting both tooth and nail for justice. According to lawsuits, Melly and his crew, including 100K Track in Portland, allegedly had a twisted plan to kill Juvie and Sack to boost their own fame and fortune. They're even dragging Melly's mom and manager Jamie King into the mix, accusing them of covering up all the profiting from the situation. It may seem like a stretch to some, but Juvie's mom is determined to hold Melly accountable. The lawsuit also claims that Melly and his associates lied to the police and obstructed the investigation, pointing fingers at Trevon Glass, Jacoby Mills, and others for providing false information. Melly's defense team, on the other hand, vehemently denies all the allegations. They argue that there's no evidence and that they have no duty to the plaintiffs. They're trying to distance themselves from the entire mess, and are even attempting to shift some blame onto Juvie, suggesting he was negligent and partly responsible for his own death. The case will go to trial, and the plaintiffs are seeking a jury to decide on the damages. If Melly's found guilty in the criminal trial, it could impact the amount of money he'll have to pay out. It's a wild and unpredictable situation, and we'll have to buckle up and see how it all plays out. It's uncertain what further revelations await us next week. This setback was undoubtedly a significant blow for Melly. What y'all make of the recent news about Melly, and do you think that calling his mother the B word is going to change how the juror perceives Melly? The chances were already tight, but do you think he made them even more tight? Let us know what you think down in the comment section below. Thanks so much for watching to the very end. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel, and as always, keep it RIZZLE. As always, keep it RIZZLE.